This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
And Nick's back, but I'm Travis.
Nick is back, ladies and gentlemen. After a little bit of an extended leave to handle life, he is back on the show. We're super excited to have him back. Like everything clicked like it did before. His audio issues, everything started right where we left off before, and everything feels back to normal for Travis and myself. It is nice to have another head to talk to on this show. But Nick, man, welcome back. How are you doing?
Thanks. I think I have to address some rumors out there that I was kidnapped with the Mexican cartel because I had, didn't really come back after Mexico. I was not in charge of those drones flying around throughout the country, and I did not get sick from the fog that was going around the country too. So clear up all those rumors. I am back. Yeah, full time. Yeah, I should be full time now with Toledo too. So
so exciting. Like it's been difficult for the two of us to, carry on, but Travis has done a fantastic job. Remember, Travis didn't start this show with us. He came in late, was the Toledo guy, was only doing Toledo episodes. This season, he drifted into the Grand Rapids territory and was able to pick up the slack big time while Nick was out handling stuff and taking care of himself. And Travis, I can't thank you enough, because without you, everyone would have just had to listen to episodes of me talking, or hopefully getting enough friends of the show to come on to fill the gap. And I think I would have run out pretty quick. So thank you, man, for holding it down. You did a fantastic job. And yeah, Nick, welcome back, man. And what a fun episode to get you back with. On today's episode, we're going to recap the last two Griffins games. So that's the game in Cleveland, the first game of the new year, and then this past weekend's game on Saturday in Milwaukee as well. Talk about some news and updates along the way as well. And of course, at the end, probably recap some World Junior stuff, since that's all wrapped up now. We'll start off, though, with any news and updates that's happened since we last recorded. It's been a full week. We didn't get in a second episode in last week because of crazy schedules. And, like Travis saying, spending hours at work today with the snowstorms and everything down in Ohio. So appreciate you, Travis. But let's dive into the news here. So the first piece was that William Lagesson was called up from Grand Rapids by the Detroit Red Wings. And as of right now, he is still there. I haven't caught any news of a timetable on a return for him. Have you guys?
I did not, but I saw this morning that Jeff Petrie's still out, so they might just be having him up there for backup. They played, because usually they're like rotating between him and Albert Johansson up there to playing in the full-time rotation. But Albert got some time last game, and I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, we all did, since he was paired up with Simon for it too. So that made us all really happy. And he looked good out there too. But we do want Lagesson back in Grand Rapids. He eats up a lot of big, important minutes too. So we'd like to get him back sooner than later, especially before the schedule kind of really kicks off with some home games coming up here. On top of that as well, Hunter Johannes was sent back down to Grand Rapids from Toledo, and then Carson Bantle was sent down to Toledo in that exchange there. Hunter was down there for what, Travis? 4 games, had 5 points in those 4 games?
Yeah, something like it was a crazy pace.
It was great. Yeah, it was awesome to see him go down there and find his game. He's been back in Grand Rapids now for 2 games and still looking to find it in the AHL a little bit, but does look more confident out there, so that's a big positive. And Bantle goes down to Toledo, and he's already scoring again down there, so as you would expect him to do. On top of that, Dan Watson today went and drove to Detroit and visited with the new coaching staff out there, and I wanted to pose this question to both of you guys based on this here. What do you think the biggest change for Dan Watson's going to be with this new coaching staff, based on the relationship he had with Newsy before, working with him in Toledo? They were a lot tighter across all 3 coaches, Pat Mickish, Dan Watson, and Newsy. Now you come in, brand new coach, but a coach that kind of expects the same thing Dan Watson does out of his team, where you go out there and you fight for it and you try your absolute best every game. I think their mentalities are the same, just maybe their way they implement them might be different. But what do you guys think will change with the relationships?
For me, I don't think much is going to change, to be honest. I just think Waddy and Newsy both have like a personal relationship outside of hockey. And, they coached for so long, they were friends. They got to know each other's families outside of the game. So I think there's not much gonna change. I'm interested in talking to Waddy to see like what what is his approach now? What does Todd want him to focus on while they're down here to get his players ready for the development side of coming up? Our system's going to change. What is Waddy going to take away from Todd to make our team better? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I want to see, and go from there kind of.
I don't think myself you're going to see a whole lot of change. There's just not much you can really do middle of the season. I don't think that you're going to see them go overhaul of systems when they're playing so well. Why change that? Ultimately, your coaches, they're going to probably have input on what you run, but ultimately, you're still going to have things that you want to do a specific way. So I don't think anything really changes personally, but it'll be interesting to follow.
I think the most interesting thing for me will be to hear what Todd thinks of some of these younger prospects. What does he think their timetable is compared to what we thought their timetable was before? And who's really standing out to him early on here in Grand Rapids. We talked, as soon as Todd comes in, Elmer suddenly looks like a brand new player with the aggressive side and everything like that. Who's on Todd's radar? I know we'll probably never know that, at least until probably the off season. But at the same time, that's probably the only thing I think that would change, maybe just the strategy around call-ups. But then the first call-up under Todd's just Lagesson, and nothing really changed there. So maybe nothing will change, but I think the off season and training camp will be where we see the biggest changes. Outside of that, though, one other piece of news: Griffins legend, I guess you can call him, Red Wings legend. He was with the teams for such a short time, but Alex Chiasson announced today that he's finally retiring from the NHL after a long and successful career that he tried to revamp and come back in to play pro hockey. We saw it in Grand Rapids. He came into Grand Rapids wanting to find his way back into the NHL, and he ended up doing that with Detroit at the end of that season and had a really successful stint with them, especially on the power play. And in Grand Rapids, I mean, he was just such a great veteran player for the young guys to be around, was able to teach so much on the special team side. And then, he did try again this year when he was at training camp and all that stuff. And it's good for him to hang him up finally, I think. And I would be curious to see what he does after hanging him up. I could see him jump into a coaching role somewhere or some type of scout role. But at the same time, congratulations to him on a long and successful career. I know, Nick, you were a big fan of having him here in Grand Rapids for the stint that we did.
Yeah, I mean, he performed. He crashed the net, put the pucks in the net, the power play. What else could you ask for? He played on a very, very bad Griffins team.
Bad.
I'm trying to remember. We had an awkward interaction with him at the season ticket event, but I can't remember who I called.
No, your awkward interaction was asking Joel Esperance if Chiasson taught him how to tip the puck in on the power play.
Yeah, I didn't get
before
good,
we had a podcast, so
no, I think we were still recording at that time. But
even worse.
He didn't like that too much. But good for Chiasson. I enjoyed it. And didn't he try to come back this season?
He did. He was at Red Wings training camp.
Yeah,
on a PTO.
Yeah,
He was trying to find his way back in, but again, to be able to disappear for a little while and do what he did to come into Grand Rapids and then find his way into that call up, even that late in his career, that was a huge accomplishment. And even he mentioned it multiple times how proud he was to be able to do that. So again, congrats to him, and I'd like to see him in some sort of development role. I would assume he'd probably do it with Vancouver or something like that, but we'll see what happens with that. But outside of that, the only other update we have is going to be injury updates with the Griffins. There was some announcements made over this weekend that kind of gave us a little bit of a clue, at least on one guy. On the broadcast on Saturday, Bob Kaiser did confirm that Carter Mazur was starting contact drills this coming week, which that's a huge step in his return there. Should be still a few more weeks out for his return. I know last month they mentioned mid-January, and based on that statement there, it does look like we're still in that timetable. I'd say end of January if I'm guessing. But at the same time, if we do get him back mid-January, huge. Amadeus Lombardi, could be a few weeks or could still be another month, which that's a bummer for him. But, Travis and I have talked multiple times so far through these injuries saying, when we get one of these guys back, it's kind of going to be like a trade deadline acquisition for the Grand Rapids Griffins. And we thought that'd be Carter Mazur. It looks like it might be Amadeus Lombardi in that case. It's crazy where he still ranks on the team in scoring, even though he's been out since what, Nick, you said December 6th?
First. December 1st.
Yeah. So it's crazy that he's still up there. That's how good of a season he was having, and hopefully he can come back in and pick up where he left off. I know he commented in his little interview with Bob Kaiser that, the physical side of coming back is one thing, but the mental side is a lot tougher. And I know Carter Mazur mentioned that the same thing last season too, but look what he came back and did around the playoffs after his injury too. So I anticipate Ammo will try to jump right back in and pick up where he left off, and getting Carter back is going to be a huge boost for this team.
You think they're still living together this year?
I wonder, to two injured guys living together. But I mean, I hope so. They were great roommates from what I heard. And I'm sure Carter hopes he still lives with Ammo based on just his cooking. So,
Yeah.
But it'll be good to have them back.
Definitely tough because I know as soon as Amo went out, like the team kind of fell apart a little bit. They went through a little bit of a rough stretch, weren't putting up the points, giving up a lot of goals too. So I still feel like they're a little struggling just a little bit without him in the lineup.
I mean, there's definitely going to be a struggle there, but I think the bigger struggle for the team was just new guys on new lines finding chemistry because let's credit Dan Watson here in this. He didn't just sit back and say, okay, I'm going to plug one guy in where Ammo is and we're going to run. He tried every combination he possibly could until he got the best result. And now we're with what we have now. And I mean, look at that stretch against Cleveland. Holy smokes. That's, that was a team last year that we'd walk away from every game to go to record super frustrated. And now we're looking at those games just kind of laughing about how well we played that team and just the amount of goals that were scored during that, except for this next game that we're going to talk about. But at the same time, like he's definitely found a way to get them to click together. This next stretch of games, 5 games straight at home, I think will be the biggest test to see where we're at as a team right now, because there's been so much travel for this team. A nice long 2-week homestand is going to do a lot of wonders for this team, I think.
And like Cleveland's not bad this year. Like they're
they're good.
Still second in their division, just like they were last year, right around that time. So, I mean, it's good to go in there and get those wins.
It's huge, especially to play them. I mean, they dominated them. Let's be real. Those first 2 games there, the one before New Year's Eve and New Year's Eve, the Griffins looked like an NHL team playing an AHL team out there. They controlled everything. So let's dive in, though, to the first game of this year, the first game of 2025, back in Cleveland, because the schedule was, I don't know how to describe it. Playing 3 games in a row against the same teams happening twice in the same season is really rare. And especially when you do a 3-game stretch against Cleveland where 1 game's on the road, you come back home and then you go right back to Cleveland. I think the only person that probably liked it was Dan Watson being able to go back home to his family again right after the new year. So happy for him. But we'll talk about the game here. In this game, if you like goaltending, this was probably your game of the year, honestly. It was a goalie matchup. It was a goalie duel in this one, and a goalie duel that saw Ville Husso come out on top, who was perfect in this game. And the Griffins win this 1-0 in a shootout. And when I say Ville Husso was perfect, he was perfect in regulation, perfect in overtime, didn't allow a shootout goal against some really good shootout shooters as well that Cleveland had lined up. And the only puck that found the back of the net was Joe Snively's in the shootout there. He was the first skater for Grand Rapids. He scored, and that was the only one that went in. But we got to say in this game here, outside of that, there wasn't much else. I mean, both teams controlled play on their own. It was very back and forth. It was very action-packed. Ville Husso made a lot of big saves. Jet Greaves made some incredible saves at the other end. I'm curious to get the overall thoughts in this game from Travis, actually, because he was at the game. He was fortunate enough to head down to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and check out the game. So, Travis, first thoughts on the game before I ask thoughts on the arena.
I mean, I love low-scoring games. To me, it's like when you go to a baseball game and you watch 2 pitchers just duel it out for 9 innings. I mean, really, the goaltending was the star of the night, really, for both teams. Graves made a couple crazy saves. Husso made a couple great saves. It's just a really, like you said, back and forth game. There's things that you notice throughout the game that like you don't really pick up on TV, like especially like watching the Griffins in person. You can see a few things. I will say like Nate had a little bit of a tough night.
Wasn't his best night.
The turnover in overtime was bad, but Husso really bailed him out.
Oh my God.
That's probably one of Husso's best games since he's been sent down, if not his best game all season. Doesn't matter where he's played, Detroit or Grand Rapids. Austin Watson's physical presence. I mean, literally, like, me and Kels were like a minute late getting into the game, and I like sit down, Watson throws a hit, and there's a fight. I literally just sat down and we already got a fight. And then he got another penalty later in the game, but it was just like a tough physical game. At points, it didn't feel like the shots were like 34-31 or
36 to 31.
Yeah, it didn't even feel like teams had that many shots at points because it was just so much back and forth. But it felt like there were points where one team couldn't generate anything, and then there was moments where that same team would just control play. So it was just a fun, exciting game that the goalies really dominated.
Yeah, it really was. And that save by Husso in overtime, I could watch that on replay over and over again. One, just because it was a crazy save. Two, Bob Kaiser's freaking commentary on it was classic vintage Bob Kaiser. I always love when he's into a game like that because he gets really into it. And for him, where he's seated for his press box spot there, he's right in the mix of all the fans there. We've heard that before too. I think he was arguing back and forth with a fan after one game at some point recently too, when Elmer was going out there being an absolute terror. But when Bob's into the game, it's a lot more fun for everybody watching. But yeah, Husso, you got to talk about him when he let in 6 in his first game back in Grand Rapids after that stint in Detroit. Let in 6 against Milwaukee in that one game where the Griffins just didn't show up. They were so exhausted. It was after that crazy road trip that they had with Colorado and Texas. Then Husso kind of got hung out to dry for pretty much the entire game. He bounces back after that, plays one game in Cleveland, lets in 1. Comes back to Cleveland again, lets in none. Like and even in Detroit, Travis, outside of 1 or 2 games, he played really well. He's playing really good. And I don't know what the goaltending conversation's looking like for Detroit right now, but if there's going to be a trade at some point, you got to think now's the time. And I'll preface that with saying I love Ville and I want him here in Grand Rapids because his presence around Sebastian Cossa is just so positive, and like the way he approaches the game is a true professional, even with his situation. So we've loved having him here. But if the Wings got to make that move, and they're going to, now's the time.
I just don't know who's making that move. Like, that's probably the biggest thing. Like, but like, and it's funny because I talked to my dad, and like we were sitting there, and I'm like, dude, if he could play like this in Detroit, he wouldn't even be down here. Like,
no,
like the way he's played the 2 Cleveland games, because he's played has he played twice coming out of break, or just the one?
Twice, or no, out of the Christmas break, twice, yes. He played the first game in Cleveland before New Year's Eve and then played this one.
And won both of them, and like you said, gave up a total of 1 goal. Like,
yep.
So, I mean, clearly he's kind of found it a little bit, which is all you can really ask. You know, again, like going back to finding a trade, like it's easy for fans to just say, oh, you just take him, trade him to so-and-so, 50% retained, and it's done. It's like, well, it's not that easy. You got to have 2 partners to dance. So there's just, like, everybody thought Colorado's already solved their goaltending issues. Like, and you got to think it would be a playoff team. Like, so I don't think, outside of barring like a major injury somewhere, I just don't think, I think it's just going to stay status quo for the rest of the year. I really
Which
do.
For Griffins fans is awesome.
Right.
Honestly.
I just don't see a place where like they make a trade. I mean, unless he's a piece in a big trade, but for an expiring contract, I just don't see it.
Yeah. Nick, what are your thoughts over there? I see you thinking. I see the gears turning.
They're turning, but nobody's home. I'm kidding. So the thing that I like about Todd coming in at this time is he's kind of did a refresh for the Wings. Like, everybody just started with a blank slate, and like you saw that he put Albert with Simon in one of the earlier games that he's came back, like that he's played for this, that he's coached this season. I'm wondering, like, how much is he going to be able to reset with these goalies too? Because I feel like Ville has actually played pretty well this season. He's had some bad teams in front of him where they just didn't give him the support that he needed while he was up there in Detroit. Or he played like 6 games, had like a .912 save percentage, but got no wins. Like, he went through that stretch. That's not on him. That was on the team in front of him. Now that they have a new team in front of him up there, like the boys up in Detroit are playing with some energy. They're playing with like some purpose, right? I'm wondering if they are able to pull Husso up and have him play a couple of games to kind of showcase him if they're going to try to trade him. Because down here, he's played well. Like, besides you could probably say Milwaukee, he probably didn't play too well, giving up 6 goals. Milwaukee's a great team.
I still don't fault him for that game at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's the goalies up there are playing well, Talbot and Lyon. But I think now, like, I'm wondering if we see who's back up there and start performing, start playing a little bit better under a different system, under a different coach, on a different, just different mentality up there, really. So I could still see a trade. for him to be able to go back to, playing in a starter position. But I think Lions contract's up this year, at the end of this year as well. So, I mean, will they re-sign him?
They got a lot of goalies on expiring deals.
Yeah.
They got Campbell, Husso, Gage, Lyon. That's 4 goalies.
It's something I'll bring up for the next episode when we talk Toledo is kind of like, what's our goaltending situation going to be now? Like, we've got, especially with the World Juniors just ending with Trey coming up next year, like, what is going to be the rotation? So I'm going to bring that up on the Toledo episode.
Yeah, we'll dive into that later for sure. But you do raise a good point. Like, the Red Wings are obviously playing better hockey, and what would Ville Husso look like behind the team that we're seeing every night right now that's going out there and beating teams like Winnipeg and stuff like that? Like, if Ville Husso was getting that kind of support during his stints up there, I think his numbers do look even better, and the win-loss record, which again is not a goalie stat in my eyes, but at the same time I think that does look better too. So that does raise a question, and who knows what might happen. I mean, you got to think if Lyon falls off or anything, which he's been pretty good over the stretch too as well. But if he falls off, do you see a swap? Do you see Lyon in Grand Rapids? Do you see Husso over there? But do you just leave it as is and put 3 goalies up there because you got Jack and Coase here? The options are endless. And if I was the decision maker, I'd be pulling my hair out right now because you look like you have 3 capable goaltenders that can go out there and give you a chance to win every single night between Lyon, Talbot, and Husso. So
Coase.
Well, obviously, obviously, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. And obviously, like we said, we were talking about this one game, and there's not much to pull out of this game besides talking about Ville Husso because he was clearly the first star of this game. But it's going to be interesting.
The Snively goal was sick.
The Snively shootout attempt or goal was freaking beautiful. He's money in the shootout, dude.
Well, he's done that. He did that the same exact shot against Colorado. Like, that was the same exact play. And he just makes it look so easy. And it's really not an easy shot to make. Like, you think, like, it's really, it looks so much easier than what it is, really. And that's really all you can say. Like, just to beat a goalie 5-hole, it's tough. It's harder than one would think. Because you see it, but it can be taken away so quickly that you kind of don't have an appreciation for it until you see it multiple times.
I mean, if you watch the Sweden shootout last night, like, they tried to go 5-hole so many times. They got denied. And finally, they tricked him in. But
it's tough, man. I mean, like, I think what helps him is he comes in with so much speed, and it's on the ice and it's firm. Like, you almost have to miss the blade and miss the goalie skate because he's dropping into butterfly anyways. So
the last thing, though, I'll talk about from this game is just kind of wrapping up this 3-game series against Cleveland overall. Again, like I mentioned when we started talking about it, this was a team last season that was just as good last season as they are this season. They're still a very, very good hockey team. But in this stretch of games here, the Griffins scored 10 goals and allowed 2. Like, what was the biggest difference for the Griffins over this set of games that we've seen, especially recently? Like, even against other opponents, we haven't been scoring that much. I mean, in the Colorado games, what we scored 4 goals one night, 3 goals the next night. But for that rough stretch here, since Ammo's got out of the lineup, you're having a game where we score 2, a game we score 1, a game we score 2, 1, 2, like, and then just come back from the Christmas break and have this 10-goal outburst. What was the difference?
I think it's your veterans. I mean, the one night, was it Snively had a hat trick?
Yeah.
Like I mean, I know they only scored 1 in the Milwaukee game, which we'll get to, but like Shine scored in that game. So like your veterans are playing well. You've seen like on occasion the younger players still chipping in, which is all you can ask for. But largely, I think a lot of it comes on the veterans stepping up their game and getting more points.
Yeah, I agree with that take. What do you got, Nick?
Well, I mean, it's Snively. I mean, he scored, 4? If you count the shootout goal as a goal, he's got 4 goals in, 3 games? I mean, he's leading the team right now with 13 goals. So he's getting more comfortable. Who's right behind him? Sheldon Dries. And they split those two guys up, if I'm not mistaken. They split those two guys up, which has helped create a little bit more depth. The Toledo guys, maybe I should word this differently. You're not really seeing a lot more like fourth or third line scoring either, though. Like it's heavy, those first two lines still. Where when you had ammo, you had at least that third line too scoring.
Till the end when he was playing on the top line there, right before he got hurt.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it's the one thing I gotta remind you of too is on the New Year's Eve game, just the defensive scoring we got too. Like that's something we haven't seen much of this season, and I think 3 of those 5 goals were from defensemen, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another thing that kind of stepped up big, and seeing defensemen jump up into the play, and we're seeing that more and more over this stretch of games, is seeing defensemen all of a sudden down low in the slot. You're like, how did you get there? It's like the night I was in Toledo with Travis and we're watching Redicop jump up in the play constantly, and you're like, what's this kid doing? There he goes again. Well, we're seeing it more and more out of the defensemen here in Grand Rapids, and one guy I got to give a lot of credit to with jumping up in the play is Shai Buyam. Shai's play over since the Christmas breaks ended, not that he wasn't playing good before, but I think he's just getting more and more impressive. And I'm curious on Travis's side here, did you notice him in that game in Cleveland?
Yeah, he was probably one of the better defensemen on the ice that night, I thought. Like, because I remember even a couple times where I was like, oh, Shai, that was a great play. Or like, nice play, Shai, nice pass. Like, he's playing really well and doing it offensively and defensively, which is kind of like what he is. I mean, he had 36 points at Denver last year, so not on that pace this year by any means, but anytime you make the jump to pro, there's an adjusting period. And then, like you see his brother in the World Juniors, like just playing him out of his mind. But overall, I think like Shai, for a second round pick, like continuing to just develop and take that next step, I think is key for him. And I think you're starting to see it. He's
6th on the team right now in assists with 10. The only defenseman that's higher than him is 2-0 with 12.
That's a lot of power play time for 2-0 there.
Yeah. And he's a rookie, Shai. Like, this is what you want out of him, right? Like, I think he's hitting it faster than what we expected.
Yeah, I would agree. He's hitting it a lot faster than we expected. I think in his little interview during the game on Thursday as well with Bob Kaiser, even Bob mentioned that he's developing quicker than a lot of us thought we would, and kind of asked him, what is that a credit to? And he's just like, I want to play my game. I want to be the best, version of the player that I can be. He's like, there's a lot of competition in this team when it comes to defensemen, and I've got to live up to those expectations. And of course, Bob, has mentioned, well, and your brother's a pretty good hockey player too. And he's like, yeah, I want to be better than him. And maybe, Zeev showing up at World Juniors and doing what he did, maybe that's another fire underneath Shai that gets him going. So yeah, overall, just Shai Buyam has continued to impress me, and I think is going to continue to impress me all season long.
Would you say he's topped Vollander at 2-0?
I wouldn't say he's topped him. I think he's created a really interesting conversation there. Defensively, yes. Offensively, it's a toss-up. Like, I love William Vollander, but sometimes I'm looking at him going, what are you doing defensively? Like, it's like early last season Simon Edmondson, where you'd see him make a mistake and you're like, Simon, what are you doing, man? And Wally's doing that now too. But again, second year with the Griffins in a bigger role, you're going to expect to see mistakes. And this is the time of year where you start seeing those mistakes get eliminated and getting better and better, just like we saw with Simon last year. So that'll be a question that I'll circle back to at the end of the season for sure. Just did he actually improve from that point, or are those mistakes still there? If Tuomisto figures out how to make that freaking shot more accurate, he's instantly the best defensive prospect that this organization has. Let's be real. He is sound defensively. He can run the power play like any other defenseman out there. But if he can rein in that blast, what do you mean?
Is he better than ASP?
Oh, sorry. I should. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen him play in person yet. Let's see him play in this league.
Hey, I just was like, oh.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Good way to keep me honest there. But no,
that's what I'm here for.
We're saving you.
We'll say defensive prospects active in the pros right now, in North America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon
Make it really
opened down
specific.
Yeah, you ran down that rabbit hole quick.
Yeah, why not?
You say that in the camera now? I'll clip it for later.
But yeah, 2-0. He's just got to rein in that shot, man. Once he figures that out, he's going to be dangerous. And that's a guy that when he showed up here, he was a really weird prospect. No one knew what his path was going to be. His path to get to Grand Rapids was super weird. Yeah. So Shy's creating a lot more competition there, and I think he's just going to make everyone better around him. And again, you've got to give a lot of credit to the veteran defenders in this team. William Lagesson has come in and done a fantastic job. Brogan Rafferty is playing his best hockey as a Griffin so far on defense. I'll be honest with you there on that one. And then even Josiah Didier, who's been more consistently in the lineup this year than I think he was last year, is also really helping these kids develop. And I think he spent a lot of time with Shy, and they're learning a lot from each other. I think Dids is still learning a lot from these kids, and you're seeing his game grow this year too, which you wouldn't expect to see a veteran defenseman that's been in the league for so long, his game grow. But I've definitely noticed an uptick in his performance this year, and still eats shots like no other. So yeah, the Griffins defense is the one thing that we went into the season going, it looks worse than last year. And I'm sitting here going, is it about the same as last year? It really might be. So that's where I'll leave that statement there before I make another really bad attempt at saying a good prospect is in the system. But anyways,
you're welcome. We'll keep you on the rails.
That's why I keep you guys around. On that note, though, let's send it over to an ad break. And when we come back, we'll recap the game against Milwaukee on Saturday. And then, of course, talk World Juniors. And I think we'll talk some teddy bear toss, too, because there was a record broken over the weekend. So we'll go read the ad when we come back, all that fun stuff. The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
There's nothing like the excitement of watching NHL hockey live and in person. The sounds of the puck hitting the boards, the players slamming guys up against the glass. There's truly nothing like it, and it's never been easier to save money on your tickets than now with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And we're back. All right, let's dive into this Milwaukee game, which, Nick, I'm going to expect a lot out of you on this one. You were kind enough to give me the night off from covering hockey after, about a month and a half straight of covering every single Griffins games. You were back, so you covered it for us. You watched it. I only watched the highlights of this one. I did not watch the game once I saw the result because we didn't win, so I didn't want to watch it. But
and Travis didn't watch a single second of anything because he was in Toledo.
Expected. You had a busy weekend down there that I'm excited to talk about in that episode this week. Actually, so stay tuned, everyone, for that. So
actually, I was at my dad's clipping the Walleye game. So
look at this guy, so dedicated. So the Griffins go into Milwaukee after that trip to Cleveland there, and they end up losing this game 2-1. And if you missed the first 5 minutes of this game, you missed all the goal scoring, which is absolutely wild. Just a slow start for the Griffins here. Nick, just walk me through the start. What happened for Milwaukee to get these two goals? I see one was a power play goal, one was 17 seconds into the game. What happened at that point?
Yeah, so my first game back covering was absolutely torturous. If you've ever watched me clip in real time, you'll know exactly why. So
it's funny.
Yeah, within 17 seconds, right off go, literally just they win the face-off, goes back to him. He shoots it from the point. It deflects off. It looks like it deflected off of somebody else. Goes top corner. Like, there's nothing Costa could have done about this. Like, is what it is. And then Kyle Marino, 4 minutes later, scores another one. And this one, I don't like this goal at all. Not because it went against us, but because it looks as if Costa had the save on this. It was on his pad. It was under his pad, and they pushed him and the pad into the goal. That's what it looks like on my end.
That's not a goal.
That you may have saw something else, but that's what it looked like. And I waited a little bit of time to see like what was going to happen because it looked as if we had challenged. So I'm watching the ref. I'm trying to figure out, is this goal coming back? Is this a good goal? Because I didn't like how this looked. Even after I clipped it, slowed it down, watched it, there was no challenge. No challenge.
Well, you can't challenge in the AHL.
What? Okay. Well, that's dumb.
Because
So
if you can, I got one in real time during the Colorado game.
yeah,
That's right. That offsides one.
why?
Yeah, they can't challenge. They can do official reviews on it, which they should have done, or maybe did do, and maybe they didn't see it as they pushed the pad. But watching your clip back right now, they pushed that pad. That's not a
Yeah.
goal. That's not a good hockey goal.
And
Sorry.
I was mad too because like the game was basically decided by that. Like, I mean, you looking back at it, like they won by 2, and that was the deciding goal right there. Things could have been different if they could have challenged. They could have reviewed it. I don't know, just me. So yeah, a little bit of chaos there. Then we turn around, we get a penalty. Deuce gets a penalty for hooking. And Bob was not happy about this. He made a lot of people know, not happy about this call on Deuce. And at that point, I'm just like, this game is just going to be a pooper. Like, I don't have any other words for it. This game is not going to be a great one. And I can't remember who somebody brings the puck up. Maybe it was Watson. And brings it all the way through into the offensive zone. Shine gets it. He loses it. He wins it back, and he just lets this one rip. And the boys have the energy now. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Dom Shine on the shorthanded, gets it going, gets the boys going. And it looks like the momentum's back on our side for a lot of the game, like from that time. And like second period comes, we're just hitting goalposts. We hit 2 goalposts. Third period, we hit another goalpost. Matt Murray, right, just stands on his freaking head this entire game. Elmer had a great opportunity with a backhand, and Murray just gloves him. Just big stops. If he wasn't saving them, he was getting luck from his friends behind him with the goalpost. Like it was one of those games where like we controlled a lot of it, and we just couldn't buy a goal. Like, it wasn't for lack of effort. I thought everybody played real well. I thought the team responded well after we were down 2-0. We had a lot of game to come back. Just couldn't get a goal in.
Yeah, we got goalied. And once you let Matt Murray get hot, it's kind of dangerous because once he gets hot, he's a really good goaltender. And, he's one of those guys that we didn't know what we'd see with him being in goal this year in Milwaukee. They lose Askarov and Grosnick, and you're like, what does this goaltending tandem look like? And we've seen Krona a couple times, and he's okay. But Matt Murray, once he gets confident, he's one of the best goalies in the league. If he's confident at that time, you get him rattled, he's awful. But
Which one?
At the same time,
Which Matt Murray?
One from Milwaukee.
The Matt Murray.
Are you sure?
It's not the Matt Murray. It's not the Matt Murray. Different Matt Murray.
He
It's
was
what
that
played.
night.
He played for, I believe it was Texas last year. I
Yeah.
have to correct myself there.
Texas.
But yeah, it was Remy Poirier and him and net in Texas last year, and they would do the same thing to it. He
Yep.
did the same thing there.
Yep.
He'd get hot, he'd goalie us. And I had to think back too, because I lied. I did watch the third period of this. I completely forgot about it because not much happened in it. But you're right. Momentum was on this team's side for the rest of the game after that. They did outplay Milwaukee. Matt Murray just out-goalied us, unfortunately. One thing I did notice in the game, too, another note, that Austin Watson took a nasty check from Turner Ottenbright, which if you've listened to this podcast before, I cannot stand Turner Ottenbright. He used to play for the Iowa Wild, just a big whiny crybaby who likes to throw his weight around, but as soon as it doesn't go his way, he's whining to the refs. He's like early Sidney Crosby, let's be real, except he throws his weight around. But he got Austin Watson pretty good there, and he even got a good hit on Nate Danielson at some point in that third period too. And one thing I didn't like is I didn't see any response to that. I kind of expected a response when you see Nate take a big hit, but I was kind of hoping for one there. But maybe Waddy said, keep it clean. Let's get this goal, and then we can go wreak havoc. And that's probably the smart coaching move. That's why I'm not a coach. But Watson took that hit. He went to the bench in a lot of pain, but I did see him back on the ice later on in the third. And this one, he did look a little slower, looked like he was kind of limping around a little. So hopefully by this weekend, he's good to go. We didn't hear anything after that, but this is just one of those frustrating games, which luckily we haven't had a lot of those this season. And for the early part of the season, we had Milwaukee's number. The 6-1 loss, again, the team, they got outplayed. They were exhausted. You can blame the schedule almost fully on that performance there. Not that that's an excuse, but that's what we will blame it on. It does suck to see them lose a game against Milwaukee after that, where they outplayed that team. But at the same time, you can't win them all. They've played really well lately. The team played well in this game. I can't be mad at it. Even I think Coast played well. He didn't face a ton of shots. Milwaukee only had 20. Griffins outshot them here. Griffins have been out shooting their opponents kind of left and right lately. We haven't been talking about it, even though that was kind of a pain point to most of the season here, was getting outshot. But yeah, this is just kind of one of those ones where you burn the tape, but you don't really want to burn it because the team still played well. You just move on from it. You enjoy your week off and get ready for Manitoba this weekend. But any other final thoughts from this one from you, Nick, outside of just those couple things?
Yeah, I mean, Nate played really well. He had a lot of chances. He led the team with 6 shots, and he had he had a lot of opportunities, like good opportunities. They weren't just little, fluffy shots in and like that weren't going to happen. But I thought for sure he was going to end up tying this up at some point as well. And there was one part in the third period, now that you mentioned Watson going down, there was one point, there was like 4 broken sticks. Like play went on for like 10 minutes with no stoppage. Goalie loses his stick. Matt Murray loses his stick. A couple defensemen lose their stick. And we still just could not capitalize on any of this. And I was just like, this is the point. Like let's make them pay for it right here. Like, we've got all this opportunity here, and we just could not get the right mix of people out there or what. So it was unfortunate. And especially being my first game back. So I'm looking forward to this weekend's games against Manitoba, last in the league. Let's get this win streak. Let's start a win streak right here. Like, we haven't been I looked at like the last 10 games. I think we're like 5-3-2 or something. Yep. Nothing crazy. Chicago's like right there with 8-0 in their last 10. Like, we gotta start a win streak. We gotta start. We're good right now. We're at the top. I'm sounding like Toledo fans right now with.
You are
being at the top and still wanting some more wins, but I feel like everything's so close. All the teams are so close.
Are you 20 points clear of the playoffs?
No. 20 points is a lot. Like we're within 4 of like all the top guys. So I mean like, are we 20 points clear of missing the playoffs? No, we're gonna make the playoffs.
We're only 11 points clear of that last playoff spot in the division. Because again, if you followed the show for long enough, the Central Division is just stupid every year. It's always close, and then there's like 2 bottom teams that try to ruin everyone's fun at the end of the season, and then we'll go on a tear and start getting the conversation going like, oh, well, one of them make it, and then they don't. But yeah, I mean, this team's going to make the playoffs. There's no question about that.
We were that team that one year.
We were that team that one year. It was a really bad year.
You kept thinking we were going to get in, and I was like, Brandon, give up. We are not getting.
I don't give up hope.
We are not getting in the playoffs. Oh, good old Ben Simon days.
Oh, God, don't remind me. But yeah, just again, a game you want to move on from. The boys will have a lot of practice this week. There's a lot of stuff that they can work on and learn from. And hopefully by that point you get Augustine back in the lineup maybe too. That'd be nice. And, again, we're closer and closer to Carter Mazur returning. So that'll be nice when it happens. But the boys are in a good spot, man. Like, we talked all last season about the post-Christmas break play. And already post-Christmas break here, they're off to a great start. And just hope that they can keep that going. Don't look at me like that, Nick. They won the first 2 games after the break by a lot. So I know his pessimism is back on the show. We are so back.
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, right.
Those goals didn't matter because I didn't watch them.
Oh God, no. They were playing well. They've been playing well, and we just hope to keep that going. And like we said, they got a nice homestand coming up. They got Manitoba coming to town this weekend for Friday and Saturday's game. And then I believe it's Chicago on Wednesday. And then following that, you have Cleveland coming back to town for 2 games, which I would assume will see a very, let's say, hungry Monsters team that's going to want some revenge after the first couple games this year. So we kind of saw that bounce back as well.
That might be a fun weekend.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff going on that weekend. You got Wing Wheel Podcast Night that Saturday. You got the Jurassic Park jerseys that Saturday. Nick, you have family coming into town for it. We have some friends of the show coming into town for this, including hopefully Travis here, as long as the schedule and everything pans out. Plus, you got the Great Skate going on too that Saturday night. It's gonna be a lot of fun for Griffins fans that weekend. So we're excited for it. The gauntlet of a schedule kind of starts to pick up for us here, which is always fun. I'm ready to get back to Van Andel because I wasn't at the New Year's Eve game, so I haven't been back to Van Andel since right before Christmas. So I'm ready to get back in the arena. But let's just give a quick update on where the standings are. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about it throughout the show here. So the Griffins still sit atop the Central Division there, and like Nick said, right behind a lot of the powerhouses in the league, including the Hershey Bears as well. Second in the division, you got Texas at 37 points right behind them. The Chicago Wolves tied with Milwaukee at 36 points apiece. Then you got Rockford at 32 points, Iowa at 24, and then our opponent this weekend, Manitoba, sitting out at the bottom of the division with 18 points. Have 8 wins, 19 losses, 1 overtime loss, and 1 shootout loss. Again, this is what we always used to talk about. These could be great games for Grand Rapids, or they're trap games. You got to go into this thinking that you're playing a playoff series, right? You got to take it one game at a time, but you got to have the mentality that this is another great team that's going to come in, because let's be real, they're a professional hockey team. They're a good team. They're still going to come in here and try to cause havoc. We just got to be able to slow them down and play our game, and I think the Griffins will. Having a full week to prepare for it after the schedule that they've been on is going to be so nice for this team. But outside of that, nothing else crazy going on in the AHL Central Division. One other piece of AHL news we'll talk about before we wrap up this segment here is Hershey. The Hershey Bears set another record with their teddy bear toss over the weekend, which, guys, we've got to get to this game one of these times. I wish the schedule would line up for the Grand Rapids Griffins were playing this game. That would be an incredible trip for us. But at the same time, man, 102,343 stuffed toys thrown on the ice during the teddy bear toss in Hershey. That surpassed the previous record of 74,559. Like, you think about that, if it's an 18,000 seat arena, that's like every person bringing 6 or 7 bears. That's insane.
I want to see it.
That's literally what I was going to ask. How many people could fit in their arena?
I think it's 18,000. I'd have to be corrected on that. Someone can correct me in the comments if they want, or someone will look it up while we're talking about it here. But that's an insane amount of teddy bears. It took about 45 minutes to clean up too, which is pretty impressive, honestly. It's like they've done this once or twice before, with a large amount of stuffed animals. But credit to the Hershey fans that show up every year wanting to set this record, and they make a big deal out of this game. I wish every team made as big of a deal out of this game, because I think every team could put up big numbers like this. But I guess when your team's named the Bears, it's easier to probably market the teddy bear toss a little bit. But at the same time, dude, just credit to all of them. That's a lot of happy kids that are going to get some stuffed animals and other stuffed toys out there. That's just well done all around by that organization, as they always do every freaking year. Everybody in hockey waits for the Hershey Bears teddy bear toss because they know it's going to be just massive, and the videos from it are going to be insane. Like, you literally have players diving into mountains of bears out there. It looks so much fun.
I think my biggest takeaway is that it isn't before Christmas.
I know, right? It's super weird.
It is weird. I have the attendance for that game, because it was on the 5th, right?
Yes.
10,514 fans.
Shut up. Hold on. Wait, what?
That's what the AHL reported.
What was that number again?
10,514.
Oh my God. So that's
like what? Almost, is that 100 bears a person?
Sorry, folks. We're going to ask that math. It was 10,000.
514.
That's 9.73 bears per person.
10 bears, yeah. I said 100.
10 bears a person.
That's a lot.
That's insane.
I feel bad. I only brought 2 to the last Griffins one.
I brought 3, and I couldn't throw them from the press box. So
I couldn't either.
I could. I tried. I just didn't make it to the ice. I don't know if I cleared the upper deck. Let's be real, but no, I did. But at the same time, yeah, 10 bears a person. That's just an insane number. So congrats to them. 1, how do they clear it up so fast? 2, how do they count it so fast? They had the result while the game was still going on. Like, that's, again, they just know how to do this. They have a system in place for this that every other team should adapt. I know you guys want me to bring it up, and I'm not going there. I'm not going to talk about it. But yeah, that's very impressive. Well done by them. Moving on from the AHL, let's talk World Juniors. We got to. It's, it's the best, one of the best tournaments in hockey. It's one of the favorite times of year for a lot of us to sit down and watch these prospects and these kids play. And Team USA comes out on top for back-to-back years, winning the gold medal because frickin' America, why not? But a thrilling game from what I've seen from it. I ended up not watching that game because there might have been an important football game happening at the same time that definitely took priority over hockey for me at that point in time. But Travis, I know you watched this game, man. Just what happened in this? Because it looked like an absolutely insane game.
I really only caught the end of the second and the third because I was.
That's all that matters, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. When I turned it on, they were down 3-1. The second goal was just a total fluke goal, redirection that lucky bounce went in. The tying goal was great. But I mean, we mentioned Shy, but Jesus, what a pass from Zeev to set up the game-winning goal and the golden goal. I mean, like, I love the World Juniors. There's just one thing that I hate about it, and I hate that tournament has become who is the superpower of hockey, like, because we haven't had a best-on-best tournament in so long. That's the only, like, downfall to it. Like, you listen to, like, 32 Thoughts of the Sheet or all these, like, big-time shows that, like, cover, like, the NHL or the prospects and stuff, and it's like, yeah, this is the tournament that determines who the great hockey power is in the world now, and it's a bunch of under 20-year-old kids, basically, which they're not wrong. I mean, it's technically the best tournament of the year every year. Christ, it's better tournament than the Worlds. I think the Worlds would be better if it had better timing and scheduling, but there's really no other time to have it. But I mean, the World Juniors, it's like the one tournament that everybody, like, you're a kid, that's like your Olympics. Like, for these kids, that is literally like their Olympics. Like, it's probably the biggest tournament that over half of them will ever play in. And, to go back to back for the Americans, that's a great feat. Glad they finally got to do it, and they get to go for a three-peat on home soil next year. So,
yeah, because it's in Minnesota next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
What an environment that's going to be, man. But yeah, I mean, awesome for them, awesome for the kids too. It's just a cool tournament. Congrats to Czechia as well on their medal. That's awesome. Like,
Sweden, man, they get to the semis and just fold. It's like, it's so weird.
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, they did. But I mean, Czechia coming home with a medal. I don't think many people had that prediction written down before the tournament started there. Finland getting a medal, obviously, as well. I think we all saw the Finns were a good team, and I'm glad we were able to beat them. But at the same time, this was such a big tournament for the Red Wings, and so many good prospects showing up and playing absolutely incredible hockey. We all know ASP had a fantastic tournament. Trey Augustine, an incredible tournament. Now the most winning junior goaltender.
Winningest goaltender in, I think, the U.S. ever.
Yep.
Beat Jack Campbell.
Ask Jack Campbell. I didn't know he had the record. So I'm like, looking at that. I had to reread it twice. I was like, Jack Campbell? Oh, wow. That's crazy connection there.
Absolutely insane. And then, of course, too, as well, I'm going to butcher his name. Who's our Finn?
Jeski Kiskinen.
Thank you.
6 goals in 7 games and 7 points in 7 games. Max Plant had half a point per game, I think, in the tournament. So,
a lot of good.
And he didn't play a whole lot, Max. He sat one of the games.
Yeah, he played from what I could tell, it was kind of a sheltered role, bottom 6. So, be interesting to see if maybe next year he takes that step to maybe playing a top 6 role, maybe a middle 6 role. But I mean, half a point per game. I mean, can't complain about that. Like Trey, I mean, look, he finished, I think, with like a 9.15. I think it was, something close to, yeah. So in the teens, still had a great year. I mean, it's not the NCAA where he's got like a 9.30 something or whatever that is, but still, I mean, you're going to play kids that are, top 10 draft picks and teams that are loaded with top picks everywhere, it seems. So unless you're Canada and you leave multiple top 5 picks off the roster, and a guy that's on pace for 70 goals in the, what is it, the OHL, or is he in the Q?
He's in the O.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fumble by Canada in this one. Let's be real.
On their home
pretty-
soil, too.
2 years
Pretty
in a row.
embarrassing. But yeah, man, like Trey, I think it's a perfect transition for us to talk goalies a little bit here, because for us personally, this is so exciting to think about the fact that we've gone from covering Sebastian Cossa in the ECHL to the AHL now for what'll be 2 seasons, maybe 2 full seasons. We don't know what the season will still look like, right? But at the same time, we're going to go from covering him and the excitement that he has there to Trey Augustine jumping in and taking over that excitement too. Like, for us being able to cover and talk about these prospects, one is just going to be so much fun for us, but two, it's what an incredible experience. You don't get this within the same organization to be this stacked with goaltending prospect depth. Like, this is so rare to have a talent like Cossa exit at some point and make his NHL, like, is what I want to say there, to make his time in the NHL permanent, to Trey Augustine coming in, and he's going to start that same development path that Sebastian Cossa had, whether it's in Toledo or Grand Rapids. We don't know. Something crazy could happen. The Red Wings clearly like using Toledo as development for their goaltenders, and it's worked out pretty well. I mean, look what Jan Bednar and Carter Gylander are doing. So the goalie conversation is going to be fun in the offseason for us, but at the same time, just I'm so excited for what the future of covering these teams is going to be from our angle here, because Trey is an incredible talent. Seems like he has a really good head in his shoulders too. Seems like he's gonna be a fun guy to talk to. Hopefully it's somebody we can get on the show here at some point. That's definitely a goal of ours, but at the same time, like, this is just going to be fun, man. We have a lot of fun future to talk about with goalies. Nick, I think you have a spicy question that you wanted to ask to get a conversation going on goalies, and I will allow it to end this episode if you would like.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was kind of keeping this more for the Toledo episode because, I mean, this week you saw Carter Gylander go off like crazy. Jan Bednar is playing pretty well. Travis, if you want to put any of the stats or any input here, because you've been able to watch him way more than I have, but somebody just got ECHL goalie of the week, right?
That would be Mr. Carter Gylander there. He had back-to-back great performances this weekend, including a shutout there, and then one game where he stopped 44 of 47 shots, I think. Just an absolute sponge in that game. And then Jan Bednar turns around Saturday or Sunday night and gets another shutout. So the Walleye had back-to-back shutouts over the weekend. I think over 3 games there, Carter Gylander had stopped something over 100 shots and 3 wins, and dude just playing consistently well. And Jan Bednar has been on a crazy stretch of games too.
So if Bednar's on a Griffins contract right now, I can't remember if it's a year, only 2. Can't remember. It's a year. So brings to the question of, well, what are we doing with the goalies? Like, Carter Gylander has been backing up here, right? When we needed him at the beginning of the season. So do you foresee him being the starter for next year? Because we're going to assume Cosa's in Detroit next year, as you
That's a
should be.
guarantee, I think, at this point.
Yeah, if he doesn't leave us this season. So if that happens, then you got Carter moving up into the starting role up in Grand Rapids, and then Trey backing him up, or what do you foresee here?
Brandon, you go first, because I got a very interesting path on this.
Okay. Well, so my thoughts on this is I don't know until I see Jan play some games up here this year. And I think that needs to happen. I know we're stacked with goalies down here. I understand that we have 3 of them in Cossa, Campbell, and Husso. But you got to find Jan a way to play a game or 2. I think I really need to see what he's got at this level here. I've seen Carter play at this level. He's had good games. He's had bad games. But again, that's in the same realm of he got called up and he's playing same day or very next day, and it was a late night call up, and I haven't seen him be able to consistently settle in, but I kind of have an idea what Carter Gylander is going to bring to the table, and it's going to be really exciting. I need to see what Jan has at this level. I know, like, it's going to be hard to get him games, but I think we have to see truly what is going to end up happening there. The other part of my brain says that it's the last year of his deal. If he's not re-signed, he's probably going overseas. So
This weekend could be a good time for him to get some games.
It would be a lot of fun to see them get some games this weekend, but I
That's
think Toledo might have something to say about that. Yeah, man. I would assume if you have a young goaltender in Grand Rapids, you're also pairing him with a veteran again. I think that just seems to be the move of this organization. And if you're going to have a young goaltender be here between those 3, you're probably putting Trey in Grand Rapids unless the plan is to start him in the ECHL. That's, I think, the big question mark there. If he's going to start in the ECHL like Sebastian Cossa did, then I'm assuming at this point Carter Gylander is here paired with a veteran next year. That's my prediction, and that's a way too early to prediction, but I could see that happening. But I'm curious to see what Trav's path is here.
Wait. Is Campbell on a 1 year or a 2 year?
One.
Just one? Okay.
1 year.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, again, way too early. I think they should at least give Jan another year at Grand Rapids, maybe. I mean, he came in here last year, played 36 games in the regular season, had a .901 save percentage, a .266 goals against, played 5 games in the playoffs, had a .917 and a .237. And now this year he's got a .911 with a .231.
Any goals, any assists?
He did
He's
have
an assist.
He did have an assist the other night. I'll start at the top. I think you're going to see Talbot, Cossa next year in Detroit. And then I see a world where Jack gets re-signed as that third guy, like NHL first call up. And then obviously Trey would have to sign his entry level, and then so out of who's under contract for next year. Now, granted, this is all just under contract. You would have Talbot, Cossa, Gylander, if I'm not mistaken. That would be your 3. So I could see a world where the organization keeps Jan and they re-sign Campbell, and you guys have 3 next year. I could really see it. Clearly, they've managed it pretty well already this year. I don't think they want to do that in a perfect world. It's so tough. And with Trey, does he go back to school? I don't think
he does. He's a senior.
I don't think so.
So I don't think he's.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he signs an ELC. I mean, look, if you go off of past, I mean, I would bring him down here to start his pro career. What does that look like? I don't know. How long would that be? You don't know. I mean, again, that's where Steve Yzerman is playing chess when everybody else plays checkers. The method to his madness is unmatched. But I could see a world where they re-sign Jack, or if they let Jack walk, you could, in theory, see in a world where maybe it's Carter and Jan up there, or a blend of Carter, Jan, and Trey, and one of those 3 ends up down here again. I have no idea. It's again, the way too early stuff, but everybody's gonna be so excited for the hype train of Trey with how impactful he's been for the U.S. in the last 2 World Juniors.
And MSU.
I mean, one of the best goaltenders in college hockey. It's just too early to tell, I think.
I think what you're going to see happen is as soon as the college hockey season wraps up, which is right near the end of the regular season in the American League, you're going to see Trey Augustine sign his ELC and probably be assigned to Grand Rapids. He will not play. It's going to be just like you saw with Gylander last year, where he gets assigned to Grand Rapids and hangs out with all the prospects that they had signed at the end of the season last year, kind of sitting in the suite, absorbing the game at the pro level, practicing with the team, learning the pro life. This team did a lot of that last year with a lot of guys, and I don't think you see him play. And now, again, something crazy could happen. We could have the division locked down really early, and maybe you do see him get a game, which, God, that'd be crazy and exciting, right? But at the same time, I think they approach it just like that. And then between their observations through practice and just watching him learn to be a pro and training camp and all that stuff, that's when the obvious decision will be made. I do like the idea of him starting in Toledo, especially after seeing the system down there, seeing the facilities down there, meeting the goalie coach and talking to him and understanding his mindset. I don't think there's a better goalie coach to teach him to be a pro than Austin Kaiser or Rupe Koivunen, wherever he ends up, but he's going to end up in good hands either way. but I think Toledo is the safer bet, especially if you're going to try to give Gylander that opportunity. But at the same time, if Gylander comes up here and he fails, then Trey's in Grand Rapids next year after that, and we carry forward. So
I want to, and it's like you said, I want to see Jan get a couple games up there.
He's earned them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, his plays, he's been on really good. And when they leaned on him for that 10-game run, he was unbelievable. He posted like a .930 save percentage over that 10 straight starts, or that 10-game stretch where he had 10 straight starts. So, I mean,
some Sebastian Cossa type stuff there.
Yeah, that was a little different scenario, but yeah. It's almost like there's two. We went from having no goaltenders to having way too many, way too fast. Like,
you're still forgetting about Gage Alexander too.
That's a different discussion for another day. And so
Landon Miller is going to be in junior until he overages out. Like, that's just the reality of the situation there.
I think so too. Gage, that's a different discussion for another time, maybe another season. And yeah,
that's the weirdest mystery of all time. Like,
it really is. But at the same time, Jan needs games in Grand Rapids for me to feel confident in whatever decision they make. And like you said, Trav, they could go 3. Dan Watson clearly knows how to manage 3 goaltenders and manage them really well. But I would like to see him get a game in this year, a game or 2. I feel like he's 100% earned it. And let's be real, if he wasn't signed to this organization, he's probably a backup in the AHL somewhere else right now. Let's be real. Like,
his play has dictated that he should see at least a start or 2 in the American League. Like,
he's already expressed intentions of going overseas after this contract's over, which a lot of guys that age will do and go make good amount of money over there and play. And heck, we see it with Toledo players all the time. Some of the younger guys, they go and play in the ECHL hoping for that call up to the AHL and get that shot. But if they don't get that shot, they head overseas and they go get paid. So
there's too many of them to try to speculate what's going to happen in half a year from now. You just got to love with what you have right now. And,
I love it.
And like, down here, I mean, look at what they've done for these two. You got Bednar, 21 games, 14-5-2, 9-11, 231, and Carter's 13 games, 222, 921, 9-2-2. So, like, I mean,
the only for certain thing, Travis, is that if Augustine's in Toledo, his jersey prices might rival Sebastian Cossa's.
Don't tell me that, because I'll have to buy one. I'd love to get one of everybody, but there comes a point where you don't have enough money to do that.
It happens quickly in the Toledo hockey auctions. But yeah, I don't know. I think to end the question here from Nick, I just want a prediction from all 3 of us. Just the way too early one. What team does Trey start with, Grand Rapids or Toledo? Nick, you first.
I think you guys are crazy. I think he starts with Grand Rapids.
Travis?
I think that's where he goes. I'm looking at the ages of all 3 goalies right now, too, though. Is like Trey's the youngest. He's 19. Jan is 22, and Carter's 23. So, I mean, he is the youngest.
He's 23?
But I feel like he's the most proven. And it's like, in college, he's playing against top talent draft.
May I remind you of a Philip Larson?
No, I don't know who Philip Larson is.
He was very proven in college and bombed in the pros.
Did he do well in the juniors, too?
I don't remember. I don't remember what team he played for.
I don't know. But
either way,
have played juniors if he played college.
Oh, yeah.
NIL wasn't a thing yet.
He meant World Juniors.
Yeah, World Juniors. Okay. Well, hey, Trey's also played in the Worlds.
So did Sebastian Cossa.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
And he started in here.
But Cossa needed more time. They said he was raw. He needed more time. He needed to be developed. That's why they put him over in Toledo.
Here's what I'll say is you can say Trey is more proven. Until you've laced up the skates in a pro game, you've proven me nothing.
That's fair. But he has. He came in the Worlds. That's a pro game.
He did play well at the Worlds.
He did. You know what I mean, though? In one of these 2 teams we're talking about him going to, until you've laced up the skates there and performed,
He's
You
played
got to
against
prove it to me.
He's
Trust
played against
me.
NHL talent. He's played against college talent who has NHL draft picks. He's played against in the World Juniors with NHL draft picks against and with. I think
Jesus.
he's
I didn't
further
realize
ahead.
he was this good over there.
Yeah, he was good over there.
929, 189 in 4 games.
Well, Nick says Grand Rapids. Travis, what do you say?
GR. You're just gonna be selfish. You're gonna say Toledo.
I think Grand Rapids. My gut tells me Grand Rapids.
My gut and thoughts tell me Toledo.
I just think
Unless you're going to write off Gylander and Bednar and just move on from them.
No, I'm not writing off Carter.
No, I'm saying that's why I say I think he starts there. Unless you're writing them off, I think he starts there. Carter's got to be given that shot. He has earned that shot. I think Jan has too, but I don't know what's going to happen with that.
I didn't say starter. I just said he starts.
I don't think any young goalies on the Griffins without a veteran behind them.
that I agree with, which makes you think it's one of Jan or Carter.
The veteran?
No, I'm saying one of those two would be
In Grand Rapids.
with like a Jack Campbell situation.
That's the only indicator that says in my brain that Trey's going to Toledo for the first season.
Listen, it is going to be a fascinating thing to keep track of.
They didn't hire a full-time goalie coach for no reason.
Oh, I completely agree with you.
But yeah, I think, again, Toledo hiring a full-time goalie coach and being the only ECHL team that has one, they didn't just hire him for Jan Bednar and Carter Gylander.
It makes sense.
The plan for them to use Toledo as a development team, as they should, because it's a great pro level of hockey, surrounded by a room of guys that are going to teach this kid how to be an ultimate professional and go in there. And he's going to have to, one, practice against an NHL shot every day. We know how that goes. And two, he's going to have to play against a high shot total league that can be high scoring and can be a frustrating one when you're a goaltender. Like, he's going to learn a lot of lessons down there. And I think if you ask Sebastian Cosa, that year in Toledo did so much for his development that I think the Wings are going to lean on them to develop these guys. You're going to see I think Toledo's going to look really different next year, where you can see a lot of prospects that maybe they don't want them playing in juniors again. Maybe, they don't want him here in Grand Rapids just yet. Like, I'm thinking like the Emmett Finneys, like we don't know where he's going to end up in the world, but I could see him being in Toledo. I think you're going to start seeing more draft picks in the ECHL. I just think the Detroit Red Wings are about 3 steps ahead of every other team in that sense. And no one's paying attention to that because no one else but us really talks about the Toledo Walleye, unfortunately.
Okay.
Wish more people did.
So while we're at this, blind resume. Okay. 33 games played. 29 1-2. 926 in a 213 draft year. 19 games played, 157, 941, 17, 1-1.
I know who that is.
That guy played in Toledo as a rookie in professional hockey. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah, but the Oil Kings he only had 10 shots a game he was going against.
Still got to stop him.
Yeah, I agree, but.
This is probably the most fascinating question within the organization.
And no one's asking it.
I know.
I'm asking it. I asked it.
Well, it's crazy. There's 2 guys within this organization that is going to be fascinating to see where they start, and that's Pellica and Augustine. Where do they go?
That was my next question.
It just worked so well with Cosa. I feel like Toledo, it would make sense to have him dip his feet in it just to see.
Especially since he's 19.
And that's how old Cosa was when he was here. He was 20. I'm sorry.
Well, he'll be 20 by then, probably, I would assume. I don't know when his birthday is. Sorry, it's not on my calendar.
Goalies take longer.
February 23rd.
It's proven.
So he'll be 20.
Goalies take longer. It's been proven for years.
I think it's the right move If he ends up in Grand Rapids, am I going to be happy? Of course. I'm going to get to see him every game instead of Travis getting to see him every game and me having to drive 3 hours to see him play. But at the same time, I think it's the right move. And if any fans want to let us know their opinion in the comments too, please do. But just based on what we've seen with the organization, and I think, Nick, your opinion might change since you had to step away at the time when we were down there. When you go down and experience it yourself and see the facilities and see the way that the organization has these kids set up, you're going to want them there. Like there's no better place in my mind for a young goaltender to go learn their first year of pro hockey than Toledo. And that can go across every organization in the NHL. Yeah, I haven't seen every single ECHL barn that's out there, but just based on talk with players, there's no better place to be than Toledo. Like the guys love being there for a reason. And again, Trey will have a great support staff around him with a great goalie coach that is always in contact with all the other goalie coaches. I'm sure Osair would spend some more time in Toledo again, just like he did when Kosa was there.
It's closer too. That's the thing.
It's
closer.
It makes sense.
Significantly closer to Detroit.
It's going to be the biggest debate of the offseason on this show. I can already tell, and it'll be a lot of fun. So like I said, let us know in the comments where you think Trey Augustine will start. I can assume most people will probably say Grand Rapids too, but at the same time, I think Toledo is the viable option, and I think it's the best option, honestly, in my opinion. But with that, before we get off the rails here, and Nick asks where Sandy and Pellica is going to start and starts a whole another 30-minute conversation.
Detroit.
We're gonna wrap this episode up. Oh, thanks, Travis. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this. Nick, welcome back, man. It's wonderful to have you back on the show. And I'm just excited to get you back in full time and at least have somebody else to help me clip and cover all these Griffins games. I'm so excited about that, just selfishly here. But like I said, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope everyone enjoys this episode. And as always, got to thank our sponsors of the show, of course, DraftKings and Game Time and the Hockey Podcast Network for being fantastic partners with us. And of course, the long-standing sponsor of the show, Everything Hockey. Go ahead over to Everything Hockey Clothing Company's website at everythinghockey.com. Pick up some hoodies, t-shirts, whatever you want from there. But be sure you're using code WEST. Save a few bucks for yourself, and it also supports the show. But on top of all of that, of course, the show would not be possible without our Patreon subscribers. And those are currently, Nick, do you have the list? First time back. Are you ready to go?
We've been recording this whole time. Yeah, I've got the list. It's
Who are
Randy,
those Patreon subscribers?
It's Randy, Michael Alsate, Lori, John in Florida, who actually resides in Florida, Griffin, Elaine Shercliffe, Derek Sleazer, Alan. That's it.
Derek from Nebraska, too.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Yes. Sorry I missed you in Grand Rapids, Derek, but I hope you had a great time at a fantastic game. What a game to make the trip up to watch. But I'm glad you got to at least meet Travis when you were down in Toledo. I hope you made it back home safe. And thank you again for following the show all the way from Nebraska there. And like you said, if we ever make the trip down to Iowa for a game, we will let you know. It's definitely a barn we want to go to, honestly. It's on the list. So at the same time, thank you all the rest of you who have also jumped over to Patreon and supported the show there. If you want to join them, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers over there and look forward to more fun content now that another one of us is back on the show and we have more brain power and more time across all three of us to get content out over there. So look forward to more exciting things. Yeah, Nick, I'm going to put you to work. Welcome back.
You said brain power. We did not add brain power by having me back.
That's a perfect place to end this episode. Everybody have a fantastic week. We will talk to you soon. Nick, the classic sign off, or are we moving on?
Love you. Bye.
We're so back.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at Brandon GR Hockey.